The Oklahoma Sooners now only have 10 commits here in the 2026 recruiting cycle after the decommitment of three-star interior offensive lineman Will Conroy, who flipped to the North Carolina Tar Heels. Today, we got to talk about what's going on with Oklahoma recruiting, specifically on the offensive line, and how the decommitment of Will Conroy is going to shift Oklahoma's recruiting strategy, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. Before we do that, though, as always, I want to hear from you all. So join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think about Will Conroy's recent decommitment from Oklahoma, flipping to the North Carolina Tar Heels. And if you guys are new to the channel, this is where I tell you guys to make sure to hit that like and hit that subscribe button so you guys aren't missing any of this content during the offseason. You guys can be brought up to speed on everything that's going on with Oklahoma recruiting. So make sure you hit that like and hit that subscribe button. All right. So, hey, Will Conroy decommits from Oklahoma, flips to Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. This was kind of a shock for a lot of Sooner fans. They didn't see this one coming. If you're kind of following the socials, though, it really felt like Will Conroy had gotten quiet with Oklahoma. It felt like the staff kind of knew this was coming down the pipeline, but the visit and everything took a lot of people off guard. Now, the question is, though, where's Oklahoma going to go? How are they going to pivot? Because it felt like the board for Oklahoma on offensive line was already pretty small. Obviously, I think you're going after a lot more interior guys than tackles. Last year, you had a pretty big class when it came to tackles, with especially taking Michael Fasusi. Foj, I think, slides in the guard, so he'll end up playing interior. But I think that's kind of where we got to start, right? I think Oklahoma this year is probably going to play a big retention game with some of their interior guys, especially with Foj, I think, potentially sliding into that guard slot, where I think, you might see Oklahoma play the retention game, maybe go to the portal, take a couple guys, but there's still a couple targets on the board that Oklahoma can go out there and get. Now, you do have Noah Best. Noah Best is an interior guy. Deacon Schmidt is listed as an interior, but he's probably going to end up playing tackle. And that's a guy that I still favor for Oklahoma, one that I think Oklahoma can end up closing the deal on. And I think his commitment's coming up here pretty soon. But if you're looking at some of the guards, right, some of the people that Oklahoma can go out there and get, one of the guys that's going to be on campus this week for the Champion Barbecue, Devin Robinson. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because Oklahoma just, as of recently, got involved in his recruitment pretty heavily. You saw Oklahoma actually throw out an offer to him earlier this year. But Devin Robinson, this is a guy where, he's 6'2.5", 330 pounds. I mean, number 630th player. Like, overall, with what you're getting out of Will Conroy, Devin Robinson translates better, in my opinion. When you look at him physically, you look at his traits, you go back and you watch his film, you look at his foot movement. I really like him. And he also is a two-sport athlete, right? He competed in track and field as a sophomore. So, again, I really think these two-sport athletes, they translate really well at the next level. And Devin Robinson is one that Oklahoma, if they push hard enough, I think they can go out there and land. Drew Evers is another guy that if you're an Oklahoma fan, you've got to be watching. One that you're probably pretty familiar with, the younger brother of Nick Evers, who was the quarterback that ended up committing to Oklahoma, but then ended up transferring a little bit later on. So interesting thing about that is Drew Evers has been to campus a ton, which is probably the reason he's not taking an OV to Oklahoma, because what left is there for Oklahoma to show him at this point, right? Because Drew Evers has been to campus so many times. If Oklahoma really wanted to turn up the heat with him, they definitely could. Now, I do think with a guy like Drew Evers, you're going to have to pay, because you've got SMU in there, you've got Texas A&M. A lot of people are favoring Ohio State as well in that recruitment. So that's a recruitment to where, Oklahoma's not only going to have to pony up on the recruitment relationship side of things, but you're also going to have to pony up probably on the money side of things as well, monetarily, because sometimes these offensive linemen are going to get bags. It's just how it is. So keep your eyes on Drew Evers. I think Drew Evers is a phenomenal prospect. Lane's in this class. You get Noah Best and Drew Evers. I think you're fine with that. But you also got Desmond Green on the board. Desmond Green, the 6'5", 350-pound interior offensive lineman For Oklahoma, you're battling Florida here. You're battling South Carolina. You're battling Georgia. Now, he's been to South Carolina like 12 or 13 times at this point. So Desmond Green, very familiar with there. He's actually from South Carolina, so it makes a lot of sense. Georgia and Florida, though, being in the mix. Like, these are schools that Oklahoma at the offensive line, you just haven't historically, like, especially over the past probably 10 years, done very well against. Like, usually when they want somebody, they get it. And so I'm curious to see, like, if Oklahoma is able to really, like, narrow in on this recruitment. Desmond Green is going to be another high-profile offensive lineman that's going to be wanted in, somebody that you're going to have to pony up the bag for. So if you see Oklahoma land him, you're going to kind of know, like, Oklahoma did everything they needed to, especially monetarily, to land a guy like Desmond Green. But he was just recently on campus, and Oklahoma did a really good job in his recruitment. I think made a lot of strides, especially for as late as they've offered him and gotten into the game. They've positioned themselves pretty well. Now, obviously Deron Parks is still available. He's one of the guys that's been offered that's still on the available board, 6'5", 350 pounds out of Sarasota, Florida. Oklahoma really hasn't been there in terms of a top school in his list. But again, it's just another target to where if Oklahoma wanted to kind of change positions and go look at somebody else, that's somebody they could turn their attention to. Now, kind of shifting to the offensive tackle side of the ball, right? I told you Deacon Schmidt. I really like where Oklahoma sits for him. I do like another prospect that right now it feels like Oklahoma hasn't been pushing a ton for, but one that I definitely think maybe Jim Nagy and the staff should reevaluate and maybe circle back around on, and that's going to be Evan Goodwin out of Bauxite, Arkansas, former teammates with Marcus Wimberly, but Evan Goodwin, 6'7", 325 pounds, absolute monster. Somebody the staff should definitely probably circle back around to. You've got Brett Colajay, 6'5.5", 320 pounds out of IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Supposedly knows Deacon Schmidt. That's what I've been told. There's a relationship there. So if Deacon Schmidt drops for Oklahoma, maybe you could look at a guy like Brett Colajay to end up in this class, especially after you lost Tavian Branch, right? I think we really wanted Tavian Branch for the defensive line right now, but kind of what the future was planning for him, especially into the frame that he could potentially grow into, the 6'7", 6'8". Oklahoma really wanted him. So you could go out there, get you a guy like Brett Colajay who plays in an elite system at IMG Academy. It would definitely be a great fit here. So overall, the board for Oklahoma on the offensive line is still there. I still think they need to go out there and offer a guy like Daniel McMorris, the Norman North offensive tackle, 6'5", 255, that currently committed to the Minnesota Gophers, the 502nd ranked player in the 247 composite rankings. Oklahoma could certainly circle back around to him. It's somebody they definitely should, right? Somebody that's right down the road. You definitely don't need to pass that up. So there's still a lot of board. There's still a lot of guys on the board for Oklahoma. It sucks to lose somebody that's been committed for as long as Will Conroy has in the class, but I don't think this is going to be the only decommitment we're going to see in this class. I think you could still probably see at least two. So brace yourselves for that. But the Oklahoma Sooners, they've got a huge visitor list coming up. We'll talk about that on Friday, so make sure you guys are tuned in for that. But until then, make sure you guys join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think about the board for Oklahoma and what you guys think about the decommitment of Will Conroy, and we will see you all on Friday.